Welcome to Letters from Norway, offering an American perspective from Oslo, with your host, Nick Cameron.
Okay, the single scene here in Oslo. Now, I just want to note here, I'm sitting here with my wife, so I can't tell you everything, but, my singledom in Oslo was quite brief, and I ended up getting married to a Ukrainian girl. And for all of you people wondering, it's just like they say, the Ukrainian girls are really beautiful and very good wives, in terms of being supportive and sharing and what have you. But other people here, I don't know. I've never had a Norwegian girlfriend, or I've never had, very many actually European girlfriends. They've all been either American or, from Eastern Europe. So, I'm kind of like Donald Trump in that sense. So, but I'll share with you what I've heard and what I've seen and what people tell me. Now, a lot of these meetup groups, going back to these meetup groups, they have like little sections, little factions inside these groups. And I think one of them is the swingers. I always hear stories about swingers, and they have a lot of these masquerade balls and everything. So if you're into this kind of thing, Oslo is your city. You ought to just get on an airplane and move over here, because you can find a lot of this weird stuff over here. So there's a lot of that. They have a secret code and a secret way of operating. And I think if you're in those circles, you'll find your friends really quickly, and you can have your sections. I've even heard about all other kind of crazy stuff here, but that's all alive and well here in Oslo. It's not just Denmark and Sweden have a monopoly on that. Traditional dating, a lot of people use Tinder. They also use Match.com, and there's another site called Suker, but Suker is kind of like I think the hookup site. Tinder is also kind of for quick hookups. I've had a few friends, that are millennials that use Tinder. And, you got to get on there. You swipe the girl, and then you tell her, come on over. And she's like, yeah, I'm on my way. And, booda bang, it's all done. Bada bing, bada boom, I meant to say. But it seems like here the dating culture is very different than America. People seem to hide online. And you need to really write a perfect profile description. And I've seen, and I was trying this stuff out in my single days, I've seen people were using very professional photos and writing very professional paragraphs and describing themselves. And it's like holding an egg, and describing your success. You can't brag about it, but in some way you got to show it. So if you do it too much, you'll break the egg. And if you do it too little, you won't get your message across. So there's this like way to write. There's a ton of dating coaches here in Oslo. And so after you do this a while, you start getting some dates, and despite what you hear about everyone being equal and the girls paying their own way, I have found, and my friends have all found, that you still have to pay for everything. The girls will talk all about being equal and being, feminist and everything. But when you go out on those first dates, you end up having to pay for everything. And here in Oslo, it's a lot different. If a dinner with drinks, for two people, and especially the drinks, it can run you up to $200, $300, what you would pay $40, $50 for in the US. So it's very, very expensive. And I think, just like in New York, you have a lot of professional daters running around Oslo just trying to get some free meals. It's not any different. I mean, it's socialism, it's only when it's convenient to people that they like it. So you see that in the dating scene. And if you go out at 3 a.m, you'll meet a lot of naughty college girls. You also meet them online. They enjoy being picked up. They enjoy being chatted up. I've seen. That's what I've witnessed. That they like it when they've had a few drinks and people talk to them and try to impress them or something. It's fun for them. I think it's a lot of fun. It's just like the old days. That you talk to people and you make some intrigue and some mystery, and you give them some adventure, and people buy into that. I even had this friend come over from America to visit, and he's like my age. He's in his mid-40s. He's got 2 kids and everything back in San Diego, California, and he had some girl from University of Oslo. She knew that he was 27 years older than him, and she wrote him on Tinder, my, you look like a rapist, and she told him on Tinder. And then he wrote back, he's like, what? And she's like, don't worry, I like that. So believe me, the trouble can find you here if you're online. You'll and he wasn't even here 72 hours. And I think I hardly saw him. He was meeting all kinds of girls on the internet. So it was pretty funny. So Oslo is like, it's a great single scene. But I've noticed, like, at least with the foreigners, people are like chronically dating and chronically single and going from one long relationship to another, but marriage is really far and few between. I mean, there's a lot of marriage among the native Norwegians, coming from outside Oslo. But in Oslo, it's a totally, it's like New York. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. It's just like New York City or any other big city in America, like LA. There's a lot of pretension and a lot of, people changing and always looking for better. So you got to really have your game on in that sense. And it's a little bit different. It's a little bit more muted and a little bit more different. But they do appreciate the eye contact. They appreciate humor. They like the American accents. So if you're like some American person just looking to have some fun, this is your city. So just be outgoing and you'll find what you're looking for. Okay, heading into the home stretch, the great outdoors. I think the best part about living in Oslo is that this is not really a city. It's more of a nature preserve, with some buildings and roads. But you really don't feel like you're in a city here. You feel like you're outside. And with your monthly metro ticket that gets you all around the city on all the buses and trains and even these ferry boats, you can be in the great outdoors enjoying a hike in the middle of a totally empty forest, within 30, 40 minutes. And in the wintertime, you can be, skiing down a Olympic class ski hill or at a ski resort, within an hour. I mean, even the Oslo Winter Park, you can get there by the metro on your regular metro pass. I mean, it's like amazing, what you can do here. And you can even buy, I think, a season ticket for like $400. And you can go like every day after work and become an Olympic skier if you want. I mean, it's a very good ski place. Now, I grew up all my life cross-country skiing. That's why I stick to a Nordic track. Norwegians actually enjoy all the things that go with cross-country skiing, like waxing the skis, changing the clothes, drying the skis. I think all that stuff is boring. I just want to get down to skiing. So I stick to my Nordic track. But if you're living here in Norway, people will invite you to go cross-country skiing. I always decline. I just prefer to, save that time. Because you don't get to talk, you're just skiing in a line, you don't really get to talk or socialize. It's not like golf. So that's just something I do at home. But as I was discussing this Oslo Winter Park, they have skiing and snowboarding lessons there. I learned from a guy from Brazil or Portugal who was on sponsored by Hurley or sponsored by DC or something like that. Although he taught me well, I managed to break some ribs. I probably shouldn't be snowboarding in my 40s, but hey, it's a lot of fun. I even switched over completely. I don't even ski anymore. I like snowboarding so much. In the summertime, there's a lot of, like I said, tons and tons of places to hike around here. And the meetup groups always organize these long hikes. And usually they're where the ski resorts are. So they become woods in the summer and you can hike there. And you can even, a lot of people like to hike alone. I think that's crazy because, like, what if you break your ankle? I mean, the wolves will come and eat you at the middle of the night or something. So you should always have a buddy system, but a lot of people opt to go alone. I suppose you have cell phone coverage, but let's say you break your ankle and drop your cell phone in the river, then you're pretty screwed because then the wolves and maybe even a bear might get you. So, I always advise a buddy system, Just nearby where I live is this Vigelands Park. And it's a nice outdoor air park with a bunch of statues of naked people. But I think it's a great park. I mean, different people have different views on the statues, but it's a nice place to go jogging, take a walk. And it's cool. I mean, I think it's really well done, the park. I used to row crew in college, and they have several crew clubs here in Oslo, and some are even willing to train people who've never crewed before. But there's one down in the Skoyen and another one in the Drammen. But crew is one of these equipment-intensive, time-intensive sports where there's a lot of stuff you have to do before and a lot of stuff you have to do after. So you really have to have a lot of time for that. In the summers, you can row, you can sail, you can do all of this fun stuff, and there's clubs for this. And even, I think if you walk around the marinas, you can get on a boat pretty quick because people are always looking for crew members. However, if you are still missing home, there are other options. Okay, so for those of you who are still missing home and missing other American people, they have a lot of different options for Americans. Now, there's like Facebook groups. That's something I'd forgotten to mention earlier, but there's a ton of Facebook groups for everything. It's almost overwhelming because you'll just get notified to death and then you might actually miss something you want to do. But there's this Americans in Oslo, and it's different than Americans in Norway. And supposedly they fight with each other. I don't know. There's some weirdness. Within Americans in Oslo. There's this Americans in Oslo political discussion, and they have like different subgroups. And then Americans in Norway, it's like for the Americans living throughout Norway. And there's like probably an American in every village, I would imagine, in Norway. There's, I think, 3,000 or 4,000 Americans living in this country. And they actually do have American churches. I know a lot of people like to do church. I used to do church when I was growing up. I kind of gotten away from it. Maybe I should get back to it. I'm not sure. They do have like American church services and American churches. And I had friends even meet their wives there, future wives. So it's pretty good. And the southern part of Norway, it's like the Bible Belt of Norway. So if religion is your thing, that's probably the place to live. And a lot of those people ended up migrating to like Minnesota and Wisconsin and built the Lutheran tradition in America. So that's their ancestors. Now, if you're a political person, kind of like me, they do have the political parties here. They do have the Democrats and the Republicans. And, the Democrats here in Norway, this is what they told me in the Frogner picnic. Despite, the 4th of July party, despite losing massively to Donald Trump and selling all the old Hillary clothes, they said that they were sanctioned by the U.S. Democratic Organization, that they are the part of this greater Democrat organization where the Republicans, they told me about the Republicans, is just a club of ragtag guys that just hang out, but they're not really supported by the Republicans in America. Now, I don't care about any of that stuff. I only care about who wins. And, I was on the winning team this year. Like I said, I've traditionally been a Democrat, but something has gone really wrong in America. So I hung out with Republicans, but I am skeptical of the Republicans because, at the end of the day, I'm just an American, and Republicans have done a lot of things for globalism that make me a little bit skeptical. You'll find that the Republicans are an easygoing group, and they're open for discussion. They love talking about this stuff. They like being challenged. The Democrats here in Oslo, I found them to be very procedural, very uptight, easily triggered, just like the stereotypes, and like I said, I've been a Minnesota Democrat all my life. So, everyone's living up to, their media, the media coverage of them and the stereotypes. So you can pretty much, find your way in those groups. I mean, both groups have a lot of meetings and meetup groups as well. So I think the Democrats have one called Getting Liberal or something, or Getting Drunk Liberal or something like this, and they meet at a bar. And it's a good place to meet people if you're in that camp. With the Republicans, they always want you to use the right door. I kind of got in a little trouble when I joined them. I got a membership with the Republican Party here just so I could promote the blog a little bit more because they were more into these discussions. But they didn't like me using the pseudonym, and I got this big lecture about you have to use the right door. You can't, if you're going to come through the front door, then you can't do this back door stuff, So I was like, okay, whatever, I'll use the right door. So just make sure you're coming in the door the right way. That's the message from the Republican Party here of Norway. So it's they're a lot of fun. So if you're an American in Oslo, and you're missing home, you can make this place your home. You'll feel right at home. And even after a while, you'll feel like you own the place. You walk into a restaurant and everyone's going to remember you and say, how you doing? You're probably their favorite customer because you smile and you talk and you get the other customers in the restaurant going. So, you're part of the atmosphere. You become like Norm on Cheers after a while, like at El Camino. They all know me really well. As soon as I walk in, they're all happy to see me and they know exactly what I want to eat. So it's fun here. Oslo it's a lot of fun. Okay, so wrapping all of this up, bottom line is Oslo is what you make of it. Nothing is going to happen by itself here, but if you go on Google and Facebook and start looking around, you'll find something that interests you and people that probably think the same way you do, and you'll have friends right away. And, once you have your friends and, you have some confidence, then you can get out there and, find your future ex-wife or future life partner or whatever. It's all possible here in Oslo. It's like the Hotel California. You can check out anytime, but you really can't leave. Once you get used to life here, it's really hard to imagine living anywhere else. I have to admit this, as much as I'm pro-American and I love America, I've gotten very comfortable here in Oslo. I've developed a rhythm. And I suppose, I did this back in the U.S. too, living in different places, living in Delaware, living in Florida, living in Chicago. I've lived in different cities in L.A., after a while you get a rhythm. So, but I have to say it's pretty good here. I don't use a car. I can walk everywhere. It's just like living at the Kansas State campus. except a little bit colder, in the wintertime and a little bit warmer in the summer. Kansas actually does get pretty cold now I think about it, but it is like living at Kansas State University, more or less. It's like a campus and there's a lot of nature out there. But it's instead of having friendly, smiley people from Kansas, you have a bunch of people that don't smile at you. But they get friendly after a while if you bug them enough. Nevertheless, this life here in Norway, I'm sure, is going to change, and the best days are behind us. We're seeing, if you go on the blog and look at some of the articles I have, you can see that the budget revenues are diverging from the budget expenses. The expenses keep going up, but the intake and the revenues keep going down, and they have to keep dipping out of the oil fund. And they're having a lot of irresponsible policy and a lot of deficit spending. So at some point, this party is going to end. And it's not going to be so easy and so fun. People are going to be having a lot on their minds and be a little bit tense and won't be so social. And I think we're already seeing this. People are getting a little bit less and more tensed up than they used to be. In general, I enjoy living in Norway. It's fun. Like I said, I got a rhythm here. Can do things, and you can always get a hold of me if you're visiting Oslo, and I'd be glad to meet you, and maybe even do an episode together. So thank you, and we look forward to hearing from you on emails or in Facebook, or we look forward to having you on other shows.
Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe on iTunes and follow us on social media. If you'd like to support our efforts, please visit our page on Patreon.